Everybody ready? Are we ready? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for coming. Call this meeting of the Shoreham Town Council to order. Today is Tuesday, July 30th, 2024. It is 3:04 p.m. Two items on the agenda today. The first is basically to brief people on, would you say, Marianne, and others, brief people on a meeting that was held
July 9th,
three weeks ago.
July 9th,
Yeah.
with Ride.
Yeah. With a gentleman from RIDE, Rhode Island Department of Education. And it was one of the probably, I don't mean this the wrong way, but probably one of the most constructive and helpful meetings I've had with a state official before. He was very engaged. Charlie and Michael and a whole bunch of folks, Jess, Tom took him through the school. I think it was, my sense was it was very, as it always is, it was very helpful for him to see everything, touch it, get a sense that I think a lot of us have, which is we have potentially a rolling series of very large projects at that school, just to sort of kind of keep it in its current state. So anyway, I want to yield to Marianne and Charlie and whomever. I'd like this to be more discussion, work session type than meeting. But it does. One of the things the fellow from RIDE suggested is that we engage in a sort of a community engagement process around what the community wants the school to be, and that'll lead us through a conversation. The other thing that he suggested very strongly that I think that I definitely agree with, and I know we've talked about it before, is at some time in the fall when people aren't as frenzied as they are now, to take a day off and actually tour and visit some of the schools on the mainland that RIDE has done over the last several years, just to give folks, including me, a flavor of what some of the newer designs and layouts and structures look like, how they lend themselves to align themselves with the education mission, etc. So anyway.
All right, so let me, I'm going to piggyback what Keith has said and just go over some notes I have as to what happened on that July 9th meeting. So it was July 9th we met, and the committee that met at that time was Mario Carino. He is a RIDE employee. He's the director of school building authority. He's been with RIDE for a number of years, specifically working in the school building authority. Jess Willie, the chair of the school, Charlie Weber, who's chair of the building committee, school building committee, Mike Convery, who's new, welcome back, old superintendent, myself, Tom Rizum, Eric Arduis, who's here. Eric is with the Peregrine Group. He's the OPM. He's the lead OPM for us for the school project. And Sam Briner, who's also with Peregrine, who's a principal. We did conduct a site tour. We did speak to him extensively about Block Island, significant cost associated with us doing any kind of construction project out here. And we walked Mario through what happened with our bidding process this year and how significantly over budget we were with the bids, even though we did bid it out twice, and reminded Mario that when we submitted our application for funding, They reduced the amount that they were going to fund us for because of what we call the Block Island factor. And now we were able to really show him the Block Island factor, and which was really good. And he led a good portion of the meeting. We did do the tour. He's the one that said what you need to do next steps, especially if you're looking to switch gears, is which the building committee has talked about extensively. Instead of continually doing these $10 million, $15 million renovation projects or small renovation projects, maybe we need to holistically look at the school and decide if we want to do a major renovation, rebuild, addition, demolition type of situation. And he was fully in support of that, especially after he took the tour of the building, specifically as it relates to the building from an education programmatic perspective, because the building, although it has good legs, the staff is doing a wonderful job. It still is not quite 21st century education from a construction standpoint. He specifically said that we should go for a field trip and visit some schools. Some of the schools he suggested was Eden Park, which is an elementary school, probably similar in age to the elementary part of the school here on Block Island. The debate school, East Providence High School, which is a new high school. Granted, East Providence is a large school. However, what he thought would be some of the things you might see there from an education perspective may benefit folks here in Block Island. Barrington Middle School, and also Little Compton. We also started talking about next steps. What should we do as next steps as it relates to this process? What we would need to do is we would need to complete what's called a necessity of construction application. And that has 4 stages. We would have to start with stage 1. We would have to start with the letter of intent, which is basically a 1-page letter. And then we will move to stage 1. Mario suggested that we complete stage 1. There's 2 deadlines in the next 9 months with stage 1, where you have to submit the application to RIDE. RIDE has specific deadlines. They don't have roll-in application. They have specific deadlines. One deadline is September 15th this fall, and the other one is September 15th, 2025. We talked about possibly doing for September 15th, and Charlie is not going to be happy with me, because I just don't think we're going to make that deadline, especially if we're looking to do an update of the application stage 1. And I'll go through what we need to do with the stage 1 and also make the visit. In my head, it's already August 1st and you're talking 6 weeks away. And I think to do the due diligence and most importantly, the community engagement with the stakeholders, I think it's very important. That's such an important piece. So I think the February 15th date would be better. I've already started talking about the engagement process, the stakeholders, and how we'll go about that with some folks in the community that I think should participate in that. We need to include all age groups in that, young, old, families that have children just started, families that have concluded, and those that have among our seniors in the community. So what our next step, and just to give you an idea of what the stage 1 application needs, it is, then I got this here. There's about 15 different checkpoints you have to do, and this is the stage 1 instruction. They have a checklist. We have to provide written information, acknowledgement of the project. It needs to be signed off by the school committee, superintendent, municipal folks. We need to come up with a description of the condition of the school. Some of this stuff we already have based on what we submitted a few years ago with our current project, but we will need to update this stuff. We have to do some master planning. The big piece it talks about in here is the ed planning, and that's when you will look to hire an ed planner to help facilitate the ed planner. These are folks that have expertise in education, not only from the building perspective, but also from the programmatic perspective, and they need to be dovetailed together. So that is key. And the ed planner will be the individual that will facilitate the workshops and the engagement of the stakeholders in the community so that we're sure that we engaged everyone and we come forward with a plan that is best for Block Island. So in my mind, what will be the next steps? I think the next steps in my mind is to move forward and hire an educational planner. I would also suggest we continue working with our current OPM program. This will be a separate contract than what we're doing currently with the school. And begin that process. Because the OPM will assist with and facilitating selecting and solicitation and selection of the ed planner and help us guide us through that process. I think even the February 15th is a fairly aggressive timeline, but I think if we start now, we'll get there. I would recommend that at this point, that with the school committee and the town council agreeing that we proceed with moving forward with the ed planner. We also select a date for those field trips. I think we can easily get a couple of buses, and if we want to do a couple of schools in a day, maybe break it up to 2 different days, depending on what schools we want to see. And also the ed planner will help us facilitate that. I would start making sure we do those visitation in early September. You want to do that when kids are in the school. You don't want to do that in this time of the year because it's best to see the actual education and process. Because especially on the elementary level, when you see children in action, it tells you everything. It's not the adults you're going to hear from, it'll be the children and their interaction. So that's my recommendation. I think this is a good path that the town is on. I think we need to keep the momentum going. And an ed planner and the OPM will make sure we stay on task and keep moving along.
And could you and Michael come up with recommendations?
Yeah, I'll be happy to work with
for-
Mike on coming forward and working with the OPM on the ed planning. A planner to come forward with that.
Do you have a ballpark on what that would cost?
Not off the top of my head, no. No. I know we looked at it a while ago, maybe about a year ago, so it'd be good to get those numbers up.
Remember, it was like 50 grand. That's what that for some reason popped in my head. Probably off by a factor of 3, but. Bill,
The school or the town, pick up those costs,
S-
or take them out of the 10 million.
I'll give you my idea. You may remember probably whenever we got the ARPA money, we actually reserved some of that. Because we were talking about engaging in this process all the way back then. So we still have federal money in an account that's waiting for this kind of activity.
Would any of the funds though, if it went through the building pot, be able to reimburse?
That's a good question. I don't know. It's a good question. I don't know.
It was just, even if the
Yeah.
ARPA funds are the school, but if it could be funded that way, then maybe it's.
I'm just going to be a fly in the ointment and say that we did not agree that ARPA funds would be used. for that either. Okay.
We
Just-
didn't. It was actually when I was still on the council, I think. So it was,
Yeah.
it was a while ago. Yes. No, we didn't. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I didn't, sorry to be presumptuous there. Molly. No, I was on the council, but Molly was. No. Yeah, right. Jesus. This bananas. You guys have any? Michael, anybody? No? Does this sound like an approach? Charlie?
The light is on, yeah.
Oh, now it's on. I think Marianne kind of said everything. I think you did a good job there too, Keith. But I think that community involvement is the most important thing here. I think it's more than just the school kids. We need the whole community to get behind this, and that if we do go down this road, that we construct something that's going to benefit everybody and not just the school. There's a huge potential here moving forward to do something that everyone can use and not just the school kids. I think that hiring the ed planner is going to be obviously the first step, and figure out which direction we want to go in. Once we start to head in that direction, we tweak it to where it helps everybody.
Yes.
and then we figure out what it's gonna cost and go from there with it, you know? And Billy, I think that's a great idea of the money that's already been allocated for this, to pay for this, because the ARPA money, could probably be used in better places, and to where this has already been approved for the school from the taxpayers. Again, I don't know the legalities of that or how it all works as far as how the money's spent. But from that money, there's gonna, most of it's gonna be left in the big picture. We're only spending a couple of million out of the 10.4 that,
Right.
that was approved. So again, I'll leave that up to the people that crunch numbers and,
Yeah.
but I think we're moving in the right direction. Thanks.
Since you're there, actually, anybody can chime in. How do we get community involvement? That has been a frustration, an increasing frustration over the past probably 20 years. We've had less and less and less. You have the same people who show up advocating for what they want. But there are a whole lot of people out there. And just think about it, ask your friends, get your friends to come to these things.
I think that, through using the advertising in the paper, you have open forum nights, social media, send polls out. There's a million different ways to get the people to engage, and you're only going to get so many people that are going to engage. You're going to get the people that support it adamantly. Then you're going to get the people that don't support it adamantly, and then you have the middle there that in the end are just going to complain about everything anyway. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, it just feels as though we don't have, we can't have a meeting now because so-and-so isn't here. We can't have the meeting now because somebody's going on vacation. We can't have the meeting now because that's a bad time of the year. And, there's basically never going to be a good time. It's just.
So you just plan it. This
Fill
is
it
how we do vacations with a bunch of people too. You plan it, and if you can make it, you can make it. If you can't, we'll see you on the next one.
I'm also
And I
hopeful-
think you have more than one meeting. I think this is a lengthy process, and contrary to what Marianne thinks, I didn't care about September 15th. It was Mario who was pushing September 15th, which I backed him up on because he was saying it like he knew something that we didn't know. And then that got my wheels spinning, thinking,
Same here.
what is the legislature going to change as far as reimbursement goes, to where we need to get this in before they change something? Because right now, we're almost guaranteed 40%. And if we're smart about it, we can pick up an extra 5% on it and get reimbursed 45% on the whole thing, which is a lot of money.
So I'm going to make the same suggestion that I've made many times before. I think the first thing you have to do to get community engagement is get your meetings online.
As soon as you fund
so
it,
that
Molly,
people
as soon as
can
you fund
see.
it, we'll put in the cameras. School doesn't have the money to do it.
I think then you guys have to come here and have your meetings.
That's not up to me. That's up to our chair.
I just think that's the easiest solution there is. And I think there isn't a person on this council who wouldn't tell you that, like, during a meeting, I get constantly text messages from people who are watching the meeting at home. And it's everything. It's, what about, they'll ask a question, right? Or I can't hear Keith talking. I can't hear Neil talking. Your video is out. But the point is they're watching.
I do
They're
believe it's in the
engaged,
works.
right? And then I talk to friends who are like 3 or 4 days later, they'll be like, oh, I'm watching your meeting. I have a question about this. So you guys are looking to, like, how can we get the community engaged? I think that's the number one way to get the community engaged, is let them see your meetings.
I was thinking more like a spaghetti dinner.
Spaghetti
I
is
think
lovely
you-
too.
I think Charlie's got a much better idea. You can talk about engagement, watching it 4 days down the stream. That's not engagement.
I'd like to see people at the
We
meetings.
need
But when was the
everybody
last
in the
time you were
room.
at a school board meeting?
I don't go to school board meetings.
So
I go the year that I go when I have to go to the annual meeting, if I remember it. And I've been through, I remember when I was 8 years old, they were sending out questionnaires on what are we going to do?
Right.
And people back then were sending them all back. They weren't, oh, well, watch it on television because of course we
think,
barely had television. But I think have a big dinner, everybody get together, everybody talk. That you've got to get people in the same room. We're losing that. We're one of the few places left anywhere that can still do that. And we're letting it slip away from us for convenience sake.
Yeah. Molly, I think it's in the works though, that whole,
I hope
It
it's in
has
the
to
works.
be. This whole,
I
like-
mean, yes, I think.
I
it's
just
a
look at,
great
nobody wants to
idea,
look at me on
nice idea,
TV.
and There should be.
You know what I'm
pancake
saying?
breakfasts,
That's kind of the way I see
there
it.
should be three-legged races and all that, but I think getting your meetings online so that later, when the people who love the idea or the people who hate the idea really want, or the people who are in the middle, they're like, wait, I don't know anything about this. They can go back and watch all your meetings all the way back and follow the thread. And then you're in a better place.
Neil?
Hey, Charlie, so
Perfect world.
I don't want to assume anything. So when you say other people more than the students, are you talking more like community use?
Absolutely.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. I
Absolutely.
want to, I assume that's what I meant, but
One of the things that makes me perhaps optimistic without basis is if we are talking about this, and I think we should be, as a community facility, that after school hours, the community can use. I think there are a lot of people who have ideas about that too. That it's in quotes, not just about the school.
So you look at the amount the rec department uses the school, right? They're probably one of the only entities in the town that actually takes advantage of what we have there. And it's basically because there's no other facility to accomplish what they need to accomplish. I'm looking beyond that. I'm thinking like the town that I grew up in. At nighttime at the school, they had art classes for adults. They had cooking classes. They had shop classes that you could sign up for and take. Pay a little bit of money and take the class, and then that money either pays for the instructor, and the balance goes into the operating fund of the school, and it helped buy books. I don't think that we're gonna solve our budget problems by building a new school and having night classes for people that can't cook. I just think that it's gonna be something else to do here, right? Everyone's always looking for something to do. So if we build something with that in mind, that we're going to use it for a lot more than just teaching kids what they need to learn to get along in life, I mean, I don't see how it's not a win-win, in the big picture. Whether it works, that's up to the community,
Right. Absolutely. Hey, Pat.
My name is Pat Doyle, and I have served on the school committee for approximately 10 to 12 years, off and on. And I come from the background of education and having raised 6 kids who went to different types of school because we had the luxury in a big town of allowing them to have some say. And sometimes the say didn't have to do with a great sports program. It had to do with perhaps a peer group or what have you. I think the most important input we have to get, honestly, is from our kids. Not only the kids who are there or who are coming through, but those who have graduated from the Block Island School over the last years and feel in what areas have they been well served. And they'll know a lot more if they've been off island to college or in work capacity, what other students who they work with have had in their schools. And sometimes it doesn't have to do with bricks and mortar of a building. And I know that's what you're here to talk about. I think some of the ideas of broadening what we allow our kids to do and encourage them to do would be very healthy for this community. I had the luxury this week of having lunch with a group of 12 women. We get together off and on. Most of them are educated. They own a home here. And where did the conversation go? It went to what the schools on Block Island are offering its students, and they are our taxpayers. I was quite surprised that that's the direction. It started with, how come we can't find anyone to do service, electricians and plumbers and just people coming into the home and caretakers and why aren't we? And I personally said, and I didn't mean to cast aspersions on the education here, that because it hit me, I didn't expect that was the conversation, and everybody had good input. That as I thought, became here at the time our kids were all on their way to college, that I wouldn't have been comfortable with their education, and I hate to say this, at the Block Island School, and then I felt it had nothing to do with the academics. It had to do with opportunity to see a much bigger and very quickly changing world that they are taking their position in. And I do believe they learn that from others, and parents learn that too, what to aspire to. So I think you have to, and you have, I'm excited about this meeting. This is my last year, my last few months on the for school education committee, but I would back, and I do think you have a group here. You have some very, very well-educated, well-spoken seniors, and they complain sometime about programs they don't have. But a program to be involved is not a bridge game necessarily or water aerobics. It's what can I do to improve this community? They really want that. And I know of a few who have spent the last few years very closely involved in the school. For my many years living here and getting to know families and students, nothing has been more exciting than to go up to the school where they showcase, whether it's their music or the senior projects, or just sitting on the school committee and having great high regard for our teachers and for our administrators for the most part. But we don't invite people in as a group to say, we do want to listen to you. We don't want, it's not just about our budget. It's where would you like us to go for your kids who are going to graduate, for Block Island residents who are going to graduate. I would hope that RIDE would really want, I don't know what the Block Island factor is. I see the factor is isolation, not money. I think you can get the money and you can get parent involvement. I think we have to, for our kids and our parents, really feel as if they're part of this. So as I said, I come with some experience of having 27 years in public education and having put 6 kids through school. And I know what was the best and what wasn't. And what was the best is what they needed at the time. And I think if there's any way we can look at our kids, what do they need, starting in kindergarten even. We have a growing group of kids who need to have a more even playing field in terms of their language facility. I think we know we need how to reach out to certain demographics in the community, parents, not just grandparents, and get them really and seriously involved. So for what it's worth, it's 2 cents of someone who's on their way out of that. But I will always read up on what's happening in education here, because I think it's the most important thing that our community does. And you have a great opportunity now to think out of the box and do something different and really promote the Block Island factor. So thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Pat. Any others? So you and Mike are going to come back to their respective committees with suggestions on planner. We'll have a discussion about that and about allocation. I think the issue that Bill raised and Charlie followed up on is a good one, which is sort of source of that. And whether that's reimbursed, like how do you pay for it? Anybody else? No. All right. Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate it. We'll get there. Item 2.
Good afternoon, Chief Obie, Block Island Fire and Rescue. Pass out a some paperwork here on a trailer pump that we've been talking about for about the last, several, probably. Trish has worked on this about 15 years ago, but after the fire in town, everything pretty much worked out real well. We were fortunate with the weather that we had, being able to contain the fire to the building until mutual aid arrived. Being said, on the arrival of the mutual aid, the seas were pretty significant. The Marine Task Force, those are the fireboats that came, got here just in time. I had John Bruni on my shoulder for a while. He's like, we're running out, we're running out, we're running out. We had 2,000 gallons a minute flowing from one of our engines, probably 1,500 gallons a minute from the town. So as that was getting exhausted, the boat showed up, it worked out, we tied in, we had good water flow. If we were unable to have that, seas too rough, etc., we would have been in trouble. There's no doubt. So that's where this portable pump comes in. It's more than a necessity. We need to have this. So this pump is a 4,500 gallon a minute pump that'll be on a trailer, that'll be portable for any accessible water source, Old Harbor, New Harbor, wherever we can get into, over here, wherever it is, that's accessible. That 45-foot arms can reach down into the water, which has a hydraulic driven smaller pump down there that force feeds a large pump that's on the trailer, and will provide 4,500 gallons a minute. So that, if we have that going with our 2,000, and then the town for a while, there's about 8,000 gallons until the town drops out. So that'd be real good. There's a lot of water that should be able to help us maintain a fire to the building depending on wind conditions. Nothing's guaranteed. If it's blowing 25, 30, 40, and we have spot fires everywhere, it is what it's going to be. But this at least will give us the benefit and the opportunity to have as much water. We have plenty of water. We just need to be able to get it to our equipment. Along with that package, you'll see in there is a tow vehicle with Chevy 2025. Would have a flatbed on it, and it would be the primary tow vehicle for this trailer. When it's not being used for that, it can be used for regular fire department activities, whatever is needed. Also in this package, you'll see that there is a hose trailer. So the hose for this equipment needs to be, the bigger the better. The larger it is, the less friction loss. So this is an 8-inch line that would be long enough to go from the inner harbor by the harbor master shed, anywhere down there that we can get in, up to the spring house. Okay. So that's key, because we can do that now, but we'll use most of our hose up, and we're not going to have much left up there, because we would probably have to run 4 5-inch lines. So that'd probably exhaust what we have. So this will be an above ground water main, basically. And then that would give us probably 3,500 gallons a minute with friction loss, etc. But it was definitely way better off than we are right now. And again, it's portable. It can go from anywhere that we can tow it to, accessible water, down at Champlin's if we need to go West Side 20, or Salt Pond Settlement. People want to say St. Peckham's, but that building, a very large building there, have plenty of water. The marinas, etc. If we have a big fire down at one of the marinas, a boat fire to a dock fire, etc., that can get deployed somewhere away from the scene and feed us forward. So the trailer, when I say let's keep calling it a large volume pump, okay, it can pump salt fresh water. So it's 685,000, and that includes the truck. Okay. In there, like I was speaking about, is a hose trailer. That hose is very large. We laid it, some of it 380 feet. Very difficult, very big. You need a hose trailer for it. There's no doubt about it. It's going to take most of the manpower out of it. You can deploy it with it and pick it up. So it's on a turntable. When you're going down the road, it'll be narrow. And then when you're deploying it, you'll turn it, it'll rotate it so you can lay the hose out. Okay. Also on the pickup end of it, after it's all over, that's how I started picking everything up. So that'll give us ability to lay our above ground pipeline.
So can I ask a question that I always?
Yeah, so 1 second, Keith. So
Yeah.
that package there with the hose is 234,000 change. Okay. That would complete a really nice package for us to be able to move large volumes of water. I'm here because I believe in it. I know it'll work. We worked with this company for almost a year now. They pick up the phone, they answer, they come out. They will come out here. If you want them to come out here, they'll sit down. We had the pump here. Some of you may have seen it. It was up on the corner lot of the power company. It was there for a while. We used it down at Old Harbor. We laid 380 feet of hose with it, and then went to a manifold and we split out to 4, if not 5-inch feeder lines to our big deck guns, et cetera. So it's pretty impressive.
Pretty
Any
impressive.
questions?
Yeah. I don't have a question about about this particular approach. I actually was wondering, what do you do with salt? Like, how do you keep it clean if you're pumping
So,
water through it? Is that?
Over the years, the industry's gotten a lot better, and I got this from the marine side of things, of stuff called salt away. So you started using it on your boats, and you would spray
Yes.
your boat down
Yeah,
with it, and
yeah.
would break down the salt, and everything's gone. So we tried it here. And we just got one of our foldable tanks. We filled it up with that, put that concentrate in there, or our couplings, everything that got saturated with salt water, et cetera. It proved itself. It works very well. They're also using it. It's getting throughout the fire industry now that
Mhm.
anyone that uses salt water to use that. In the past, like the last fire, Eureka, or no, Boat Basin. About 6 months later, you'll start finding things, couplings and everything that are locked up. We haven't found much of that at all in the last 9 months, 10 months. So
Interesting. Any questions? Neil?
First off, we don't have any place to house this 3 new pieces of equipment, correct?
yeah, so this also, as you see there, it's fitted with a custom canvas cover. These pumps sit outside. Yes, they're out in the Midwest, throughout the country, probably not the same atmosphere here. They're built with as much stainless steel possible, fittings, hydraulic lines, et cetera, piping. So until someday that we get a building, yes, it will sit outside. I think it's a good insurance policy to have it. And unfortunately, yes, our pickup truck sits outside now. This one will sit outside, and the hose cart, I asked about that, said, don't worry about it. The hose will be fine. You could tarp that if you wanted to also. But to answer your question, we have no inside storage for these pieces.
How about the warranty on the trailer pump?
Trailer pump is a 1-year bumper to bumper. And then the pump and motor is 2 years or 2,000 hours. They will come to the island and service it. A lot of the time it is run on light speed, which I have to learn a little more about that, but I know that company as it's running, or if it's not running, they get on their computer, get you up and going,
Oh, yeah, the guy who did the demonstration.
yeah, so it was running off of an iPad, so I could be at the spring house and start controlling pressures and stuff like that, or whoever's running it.
Right.
So you have pump operators right now. Would this be a certain amount of retraining for them?
There would definitely be some training to it, but if you have basic knowledge on pump operation, which this department's pretty, real good at that, it's just, not a problem. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty much common sense and then goes into an iPad, like everything else. And you can bypass the iPad and go mechanical, hands-on with it also.
And so this is designed to pump salt water,
Correct?
but it can pump fresh water also.
Any liquid.
Okay.
So reaching into that a little bit, let's say we had a large hurricane or a large amount of water pooled up somewhere, wherever it may be. This could be used for that, for dewatering areas. of the of the town.
Oh, that's cool.
Yep.
And the superintendent of the water company, is he still interested in cross-training with this?
Yes, and I spoke to Mike also that just the more people, the better, right? Because community. And I said, Mike's guys, you know, would they be interested in being comfortable with it? Yes. He's like, do we have to run it? I go, no, but just be comfortable, maybe moving and setting up. The more you got great truck drivers, anyone who's great truck drivers and people throughout the community that can come together like to run equipment, 100%. These guys will come out and train us. Oh, this is a good point. Train us thoroughly on it until we're very comfortable with it. And I was running the one that came in October and it wasn't too long where I was like, yeah, this is easy. Okay. Until the pressure's on you, then things are a little different. But they're saying, and there's a video coming out, that 3 well-trained operators can deploy this unit, have in the water, ready to go, 2,000 feet laid out, 15 minutes water. So, and I think we can be trained to do that, no problem.
Did you have one? No, I was gonna ask. Where's it gonna be?
Yeah. So I see it like now, if it appeared today, next to the tent, we're running out of room. The pickup truck, the red truck maybe would go, the red pickup truck would go out back to the town, whatever it is. And this will take its place. Or maybe we get across the lot at the power company, it can be covered up and put there, but somewhere very close to the station with a tow vehicle. And it just puts more pressure on, we gotta get this new building done.
And you're saying, three operators who know exactly what they're doing can get this up and running in 15 minutes in a fire situation.
Correct.
And the one that came from the mainland for the Harborside fire, how long did that take to get up and
Well,
running?
we just had fire trucks there. So we had fire boats supplying us. We already had our lines laid out because we pre-planned all that. So all our feeders, when I say feeders, our 5-inch large diameter hose was already laid down to the docks because we already pre-planned that. We already had that all laid out. They know where they were coming. So it was a matter of them getting here and then tying in and pushing water to us. So it's kind of not like apples to apples there.
For more than 15 minutes.
Well, yeah, because they had to come an hour and a half to get here, right? And that, you can play that all into it, yes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So if we can get up and go in 15 minutes, over an hour and a half, 2 hours, that could be the difference between the good and the bad.
Right.
So, and then right now inside, we've got the capacity to at least move 10,000 gallons of water a minute right now with 6 pieces that are housed inside.
If you put everything down at the harbor and nothing at the fire, yeah. I need to.
I didn't understand.
I think Tristan was asking, we have the ability to move about 10,000 gallons a minute right now. But if we took all our pieces and put them into the harbor, drafting, moving water forward, we would have no apparatus at the fire to fight the fire. If that was your question?
But thanks.
No,
Just
Oh,
simply moving water. The ability to move that amount of water right now. This piece right here, 4,500.
yeah. Yeah. So like engine,
Like I'm against it. I'm not against it. I just want the taxpayers to know that we're.
yeah, I mean, engine two,
We're asking.
the tanker's 2,000 gallons a minute, right? And then the other one that you could possibly put down there is engine 2, and that's 1,700. So that's a little under 4,000, but engine 2 is your hose layer. Okay, so once that's emptied out and done its job, I personally like to keep that free for spot fire. You know what I mean? So you always kind of keep that in the back of your mind. You might have some embers land at the church, right? Now everything's tied up, so it's scary.
But to Tristan's point, it's a dramatic increase in our capacity.
Yes, yeah. So let's say we have this trailer pump in water going 4,500, and then we have another 2,000, right? 66,000 and change. And now the fireboats come and they tie in. We got a lot of water.
But also this is intended to be for saltwater. It's constructed to be, whereas like if we're running saltwater through our other equipment, we could potentially be messing things
We don't
up.
clean up.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all our pumps are capable of salt water. It's just on the end when you're done, how you maintain them, how you flush them, and keep checking them afterwards. So everything we spec is capable of moving salt water. It's just how meticulous you are afterwards of cleaning and flushing, and we've gotten pretty good at it.
Are there any questions? Anybody else have any questions?
If it was too big of a bite for the taxpayers, you took the hose and the hose trailer out, and then we try to go after that on another direction, but I would really like to, of course, you want the whole thing. You know what I mean? And it makes sense, but there is a point where people might just go, no. So,
I mean, that might be something Amy and Mary Ann could advise too better, whether they should be two separate items.
yeah, that's
But-
up to town manager and Amy Land on that, so. I just wanted to, I didn't want to have the conversation later is like, is there anything else we could have had? I'm like, yeah, we could have had this, and that could have made, well, why didn't you do that? You know what I mean? So there it is.
Yep.
I mean, I think they're better together on the, but I'm not in charge.
And I have.
But I do want to say this is great information that we
Yeah.
didn't have compiled in time for the budget process. And so I think it was a good idea to wait until we had
I
all the
think,
information.
I think I did have it to you.
Yeah.
I was in Florida, yes, and then I got some phone calls like, hey, can you put some stuff together? Because there was a meeting that there was a bunch of questions and no answers, and I think you reached out to me, and Mary Ann may have, and I started putting stuff together, and I apologize for that. But yeah, the more information I can give everybody, the townspeople, whoever it is, I'll give you my phone number.
We didn't have the, we didn't have the override. That
Put it
was
up on the screen.
the problem.
Huh?
Put it up on the screen.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Bill McComb
That
has a
was what I
question.
wrote down.
I think one of the things they're relying too much on the fireworks, okay? Because the reality is, the biggest threat, if it's windy, it's spraying.
Mhm.
If it's raining, it's a storm, you're not gonna have those fireworks.
Yeah.
They just made it that night. I mean, it was, the Coast Guard boat was getting hammered. Everybody was they were surprised because it was that southerly wind for a couple of days.
Sure.
And I'm outside, I'm like, hey, we're pretty good. And then they all got in, they're like, that wasn't good.
So I was thinking the same thing, Bill, because with that, the wind was perfect that night. It was going offshore. But you think about other fires, like the night Mrs. Mott's house burned down, or the Raymond House on Coast Guard Road, and they're done.
There
I
just
mean, there
wasn't
was no
enough water.
opportunity to get that kind of water flowing there.
Right. And the other thing is if the Marine Task Force is not unavailable, maybe they're on another thing. Newport boat does 3,000 gallons a minute. But if it's not in the water, the wintertime, they're out of the water, So we have to be self-sufficient. We have to have all the equipment we can to stand on our own. If we can get help, great. But we have to have everything in place and have enough equipment to be able to protect ourselves. So it comes at an expense, but I think I like to be very proactive and get ahead of everything, and not sit back and go, okay, what can we do?
We also lucked out that night, having all three boats here, it was summertime,
Yeah.
and there were a lot of things that just fell into place.
Yes.
Again, wintertime, one boat is it the Carol Jean or is it the Block Island? That's the difference between 3 pieces of equipment or 2. Instead of, they ran all 3 boats, a couple
Yeah,
trips each.
right.
So it was just everything fell really well. And it was a lot to do with the outcome.
I think we have to keep reminding ourselves how lucky we were that night.
Absolutely.
So
Yep.
many levels.
Yep.
Yeah.
I hope I don't see another one.
Mary Ann.
It will happen.
Sorry, Chris. Marion, could you just touch on if the water company took over maintaining this piece of equipment, what that would look like, the trigger?
What do you mean, the water company
The water
maintain?
company actually taking care of the service, maintaining this, possibly even exercising it on the regular.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
And that would be real.
Let's
helpful,
look
'cause
into
now
that. I'm not.
They're
prepared
used to it,
discuss that.
maintaining it, running
Right.
it and keeping it going. And it's hard on a volunteer department, as much equipment that we have. If an entity like that could do a quarterly or 8 times a year, operate it, what a home run. That's a good move team. That's with the
So,
cross
Marion,
training,
would
but
that
like,
Trigger union discussion or contract?
The water employees are not part of a union.
So it's just an ask, like I said before, Brunig doesn't.
It sounds like seemed like you've had some preliminary discussion with.
I have with John, he's all, last conversation was positive. He's a water guy. He likes to move water.
Yeah.
Can I ask a totally kind of unrelated question, but I never thought about this before, but like if you have a fire, right, and you're using town water, who pays for that? Does the fire?
Town,
The town pays for that.
they did there, you could go after the insurance company of the home or the facility or whatever and bill them. That's not out of the question.
Interesting.
Yep.
So that was a big bill for the town.
Sure.
The-
I don't remember how many thousands of gallons from the town, but it was probably 200,000 plus, because I think he has about 250. And we didn't want to deplete it completely. He goes, if you want to, we can, but then we have to go on a boil water alert. And I said, just stand by, stand by, stand by. And next thing I know, there they are. We're good. We don't need any more. Let's go all salt.
Right.
You know,
Well, I think most of us remember when the plane hit the gas station, the tank just went.
right. And that was only one tank then.
Right.
Yeah. So we don't have a lot of capacity on the town end. And also our static pressures are a little lower because the tanks aren't very high and it averages about 60, 65. Anything above zero is great. You know what I mean? But you like to see that 60, 70 PSI, 80 PSI, you know, just as long as you have positive pressure, but the more the better. And the gallons are so important. I think they're putting another tank in. So
I just want to throw this for information purpose, and I just confirmed with Amy. I didn't think so. The water company didn't bill us for that fire, for the water use. I didn't think so, but I wanted to confirm that.
Gotcha.
the other thing to keep in mind, so let's say tonight, starting now, 3, 4, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, coming off the beaches, they're all using town water. That tank is coming down.
Right.
I'm not sure what it will be at 8 o'clock tonight, but it'll be a
Right,
lot
right.
lower than it
Good
was
point. Yeah.
at 10 o'clock this morning.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, I used to work for the sewer plant, when Danny Hart was there, and he would bring in these charts.
Yeah, the circle chart.
It would be like, oh,
Yeah.
Yeah.
every day was, every good day, it was the same.
Yeah.
But you could really,
Really see it.
you knew when you were going to get slammed.
So there's a second piece to this agenda item, which is the safety upgrades at police dispatch.
What?
I'm sorry, I'm talking to Marianne. You want to just, we'll be done
Am I done?
short.
All right, thank you.
Yes.
Appreciate.
Thank you, Chris. That information was very helpful.
So Tom can go through the items that we have on this for the dispatch safety upgrade. But one of the things Amy and I would like to discuss and let the council be aware is the fact that we think this is more of a maintenance type of thing. We think it should be part of the normal budgetary process and not necessarily a debt, a long-term or even a short-term debt. So I just want to preface that before Tom gets up and goes through it. It's basically $100,000 and he has a detailed information which he provided to you folks for it. If you, Tom, be happy to go through it, but I just want to preface the conversation by saying that.
Well, can you, so as much as I'd love to hear Tom and the details and again, I think it would be worthwhile to have you and or Amy walk us through what you think, because I know that we made this decision to potentially punt this to the referendum as a result of action that the state took. And I'll just speaking for myself as always, number one, I do not want to be in a position where we've ignored something that's vital and urgent because of that budget decision, because I was very comfortable making these investments as part of the budget. And, you know, as a practical matter, we're now talking about not starting this for another year if we punt it over to the budget. So that it's really a safety and support of the police department and particularly the dispatchers that is first and foremost in my mind. I'm not saying it's not in everybody else's, but I'm just sort of like, that's how I would make this decision. Because
I don't think you get anyone who'll deny that.
yeah,
Say
right,
definitely.
exactly.
Exactly.
But can you walk us through the?
So Amy, do you want
thoughts
to
on
walk
that?
through what your thoughts on this? We've had some preliminary discussion on this.
Sure. And again, this is not in any way to undermine the perspective that the safety and security is extremely important.
Amy, sorry to interrupt, but I feel like my tone may have said that I didn't, that was not what I meant. I just was sort of walking through the way I was thinking about this. Sorry about that, Amy.
Well, I would say, and I'm going to speak for Marianne a little bit here too. I think this is a hard one for us
Yeah,
to disagree with from a technical perspective.
right.
So maybe it's my own feelings coming out too.
Yeah,
Um,
gotcha.
But at the end of the day, and again, we haven't been through Tom's presentation, and I haven't had access to it before this meeting. So I would say there's
Tom
some
felt.
uncertainty around the total budget dollars that hopefully has some resolution to it. But the scope, the cost, the bidding environment, and the work that needs to be done has all been a little bit squishy.
Great. So would you advise us to listen to Tom's presentation and then have this conversation?
Well, we'll circle back, but so you
Yeah.
got us started. So add to that whatever work is done has a somewhat short and unspecified useful life. Contrast that to the pumper, which has
Right.
fixed specifications, a known asset life. We know what we're buying, and that's much more suitable to a borrowing environment.
Mhm.
A project that has some less clarity around the edges is really a better fit for our capital planning process. It's
Gotcha.
going to be hard for me to take that to a bank in a very confident way in advance.
I see.
That's my uncertainty. Now, that said, hopefully Tom has a little bit more clarity, but the basic structure doesn't change.
I see. That was very helpful. Thank you, Amy. Tom?
Thank you. Tom Reesum, Facility Manager. So I've been working with Paul and looking at the dispatch center. About a year ago, somebody floated the idea of what could we do with short money to start improving that facility. And I will say that it works fine. It's meeting our immediate needs, but it's far from a certifiable dispatch center. I mean, normally they're in a vault underground, protected from mayhem, zombies, everything.
Mhm.
And we have quite the opposite of that.
Right.
We have a walk-in facility where people can get beach permits while they're dispatching fires. So we prioritize the dispatcher's safety as the number one issue. We are working in parallel on improving the municipal fire alarm system from an antiquated analog system to a state-of-the-art digital system that's ongoing as we speak. But Paul and I agreed that what we need to do, and actually Matt Moynihan started this, but instead of doing some of this state-of-the-art stuff, he was using concrete panels, which didn't work out. So they ended up in the dump. While we were imagining this, we discovered that Secocia Associates, which you all know, is an expert in secure facilities. And Mark Secocia himself has designed many dispatch centers, secure environments for military police and such, and he knew exactly what we needed. And if in your handouts, you should have his letter.
Didn't get that.
There's one, Tristan has one next to you.
Oh, gotcha.
All right, so there's 6 items there. I will go into those 6 items. If you remember back early this spring, maybe March timeframe, you said, what could we do with $100,000? And I basically just pulled some ideas out of my
Sure,
pocket.
yeah.
Some of them were, well, we'll do the research and all that, but you didn't want to use that money for research. You wanted it to be brick and mortar, which I completely applaud. So we went to Mark and I said, what could we do in the realm of $100,000. And initially he thought, well, what you're talking about is probably $250,000. But then when we started doing the math, it wasn't that much. And so to Amy's point, if we move forward on this, whether it's budget dollars or loaned money,
Capital funds, yeah.
excuse me. Those 6 items, some of them are already underway for other reasons and others would have to be done. But in Mark's opinion, the first thing that would be a problem, it would be attack by car. And for that, he'd want a string of concrete bollards on the street side of the dispatch center. So somebody couldn't come up Ocean Avenue, up the hill and into the building. Secondly, would go to a level 4 ballistic. Level 4 is high-powered rifle and shotgun on the outside wall and the inside wall. So if somebody did get into the lobby, they couldn't shoot their way in. Another one, excuse me, another one would be, right now we have a bypass sliding window which you could just break out of the frame in a second. We'd replace that with a bank-style window with a pass-through drawer that prevents somebody, reaching through. And then, of course, security. We're having what's called a man lock. Think of it as an airlock where the person comes in and is contained on both sides until they're deemed to be manageable. And then you let them into the building and then they can access that window. Just because strategically, we're not going to have a person on staff just to do beach permits. We got to make this work.
Yeah.
Ideally, it should be in a fireproof. That's a non-sprinklered building, wood old building. So we're hoping that in the new fire building, Chris, there will be a state-of-the-art dispatch center that meets all the UL certification. And then this one may then be upgraded to be a backup facility for that. That's the other problem is nothing in that building is redundant.
Right.
So one system goes down, one more lightning strike and we're out of business. So we don't really want to use an off-island backup. So it'd be imperative to have a second on-island backup.
Right.
So all those things, I'll just go down the 6 items. Replacing get rid of the windows. Obviously, windows are a bad idea. You could cover them with ballistic plastic, Lexan or polycarbonate, like bulletproof glass, we call it, but it's really plastic. He said better to just get rid of them entirely and coat the walls on the inside with level 4 ballistic material so that if somebody's shooting at it from half a mile away, that the wall will slow the bullet down and then the polycarbonate will stop it entirely. Number 2 is the bollards. That's pretty easy. Mike and I talked about that this morning and his crew could do that pretty easily. We do bollards all over the place. Items 3 and 4 are part of that surveillance and we do have cameras, the new camera system that Mr. Dean just had, Chief Dean had installed recently. Do look at that, but you can't really see that there's an intercom with a buzz that they can talk to.
Right.
That's actually out of service at the moment. And the camera that looks out the glass panel in the door, the glass panel in the door by itself is a problem, but it doesn't have the fidelity, but we could upgrade that camera. So 4 is pretty good. 5 is the bulletproof plastic that would be on the inside and 6 would be the pass-through window. For Mark said this morning that he could probably do it for 70 plus or minus. So we can fit that within the $100,000 target price. But if we wanted to go forward, we would go get hard estimates and all this, and that would satisfy Amy's project to have it more defined than just theoretical. And the stuff in italics at the bottom was just, I was asked to provide a paragraph that you could put in the election package if you wanted to.
Right. Thank you, Tom. Any thoughts from the council about this? Or Mary Ann, you want to follow up, or Amy, if you want to follow up?
I wonder if we could,
Paul, please. I thought Tom was doing it.
You were with that part of that shooting thing, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes, and that was quite a long time ago. But that started some of that conversation of everyone thinking Block Island is Disneyland. Bad things happen here. Bad people come here. We know most of our year-round residents. It's some people that come here during the summertime. You can have bad people come here any time of the year. The first place, if you are going to attack something, is going to be your dispatch center. If you can't dispatch anything, your police, your fire, your EMS, we're done. And they're sitting in a building that when the fire truck opens the garage door, the front walls move. It's unsafe. If you go look at most police departments on the mainland, you're buzzed in the front door. You're buzzed into a vestibule. They are literally, as Tom said, Westerly is a fairly new PD. If you go in there, it's right by the airport when you get off the
Right,
plane.
yeah.
Walk into their front foyer. Their dispatchers are hunkered away. They can't be seen. They can't be hurt. They can't be gotten to. That's what we need to start thinking about here. We've been lucky and we keep knocking on wood saying, okay, knock on wood, it hasn't happened yet. The word is yet. That's the biggest issue. And the discussion about financing part of it, I'm leaving that all up to you folks because that part is, that's your end of that.
Right.
Mine is obviously work with Tom and work with Mike and Marianne, the need for it. And then the need is there.
Yeah, I think everybody agrees with that, Paul.
Can I just ask too, like, what are we doing besides these physical things that we could do to keep people from going to that building? What other things are we doing to just hold, like, okay, so I'm going to go back to the paying, like people walking in the front door to pick
Yeah, I
parking
mean,
tickets and get a fire permit and use the bathroom. And these are all things that it would be ideal if we could not have going on there.
Right. And we talked about that. I've had a lot of projects all spring and for some of the summer. And we talked about looking at e-ticketing and doing all
Yeah.
those things
Yeah.
this coming up winter. And you're right. A lot of those things, if they were online, would keep a lot of people out of that building that don't necessarily need to be in there all the time.
Right.
But I also agree that, I mean, that was a very long time ago now that we had a dispatcher threatened with a rifle. It was pretty terrifying. We've sort of collectively forgotten about that. But
I
I
haven't.
understand the reluctance to put this on the ballot. But what's our plan? We need to have some more immediacy to it. I understand that you think it can fit into the budget. But when? That's my question. What's the timeline?
Yeah, I think that's everybody's.
Yeah.
You know,
Like,
because
are we gonna nail that down?
I feel like we've had this on our list of things, right? Paul? I mean, it's not like I've been here a long time, but 4 years we've at least we've talked about it and it's,
For the meantime, could we move it to the second floor of your side? Has anybody looked at that? And would it?
I don't think we actually have the room to do that up there.
Okay. Good thought.
go ahead, Mary Ann.
Amy and I texting back and forth.
Yeah.
And I there's 150,000 left with the ARPA money.
Uh-huh.
And I think tonight what we need to do is make a decision of long-term debt and so we can get that ready for the ballot to vote on. Let Amy and I work on this and look at this and see how much we need. If it's $70,000
Right.
out of the 150.
Right.
That's attainable.
Uh-huh.
And that's something we can come back to you
Sure.
folks in the middle August meeting to make that vote. Then we'll go forward with the
So
process of that.
pending that, what would you like us to do a motion to have both ready? I'm looking at Melanie. I'm looking at.
Are you having the two questions for the ballot, like makes the fire the fire pump and the safety issues? Is that what you're saying, and potentially put them on the ballot?
I guess what I'm saying is, should we vote should we vote to have on our agenda at whatever, one of those August meetings, both questions, and in that meeting, we can decide whether we're gonna bond. or not.
So
Does that make
let me
sense?
just say that you'll have to deal with this on Monday, on the 5th. So you don't really have to make any vote today, but if you can give some kind, if you can give some kind of direction, that would be best. And then Mary Ann would take care of it.
So
Yeah, so-
I just want to say here too, that like, I'm going to say no to the ARPA money. I don't think this is the way that that should be spent, but that's me alone. I just am curious what the plan is. Like, can the cameras be done soon out of money that we have? Are we putting this up on the ballot for the taxpayers? Can the windows be removed soon? That seems like a job that could be handled. I want to know what the plan is before we decide that we're not putting this on the ballot.
Mary Ann, remind me, ARPA money has to be spent by end of 24 or end of 25?
Amy, correct me if I'm wrong. I thought it was 26.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
Yeah,
But
it needs to
25.
be committed by the
Committed.
end of 24 and spent by the end of 26.
Okay, so the committed means that we're going to commit this money in the next 6 months.
Yes.
So, sorry, David, didn't see you.
Just a quick question. David Lewis, you got 6 months to allocate that money. 5 months, actually, because July is passed. If not this, what else is on people's minds for that money? It's not like we have another year to figure it out. So really now, this is where you have to really force yourself to talk. What is the true priority for that money? Thank you.
Right, and that's much more articulate way of saying what I was saying, which is I would like both questions to be prepared to go on the ballot. On Monday, you and Amy come back with suggestions, and Tom and Paul, on what a non-bonded approach looks like. And then the council can decide which one it prefers.
Clarification. The fire is one question?
Yes.
Okay.
We're just talking about the public.
No, I just wanted to be sure
Yeah,
that this
yeah,
was one,
yeah, yeah,
one
yeah.
question,
Yep.
because we've gone down that road
Yes,
before and it's not
yes.
worked.
If I may be so bold, I just think the audience would like to know at that next meeting what the alternatives for that money is be. What's the competition? It's either the fire, the dispatch center, or it's X and Y.
Mhm.
But you can't have a vote without understanding what X and Y is or isn't. So it's either fire station or nothing without that answer.
Renee?
I just wanted to know, he said
You need to come up to the mic if you'd like.
Is it fiscal year or
Somebody else want to jump?
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you. Can you just come up, please? Thank
Are
you.
we talking fiscal year or calendar year with those ARPA deadlines?
I believe it's calendar year.
Calendar year, because fiscal year 24 would have been June 30th. So I'm going with calendar year.
Yes, calendar.
So have I provided, does that make it clear? Is that clear for you?
And I would assume the preparation of the pumper would include everything. That
think
Chris
so.
Hope, yeah,
think
I
we're
just
gonna
want
do it. Let's
clarification.
do it the right way. And
They probably see something not to exceed $1 million because
yeah,
it came to 9.9,
yeah.
919,000.
Yep. Martha, you look like you're happier.
Yeah, well, I was going to suggest the ARPA money a while ago because it just seems like a a no-brainer. We've got it. And I certainly don't want to get to November and be, oh, what are we going to do with this money?
Sure. We'll propose it. We'll figure it out. And some of us may like it and some of us may not. It's okay.
So Marion, to David's point, I think it's a good one. Can you just clarify what qualifies for the ARPA? And I would ask all five of us to think about have projects, if you want to, that potentially could be in it. I know Keith, you had said allocation for the school, maybe. Molly, I know you had some thoughts. So what are the rules so we could just think about other things?
Amy, do you want to help out here as to, I don't have the specifics in front of me relating to how we can spend that money.
Sure, I don't have the specifics in front of me either, but suffice to say that any general government service that the town currently engages in the normal course of business is appropriate. So there are very specific things, and general government services is sort of a blanket qualifier. So things like a capital acquisition like this would qualify. Things like a study related to the school would qualify. Other community support elements, anything to mitigate the impacts of COVID, those are all eligible expenditures. I would suggest then that we have a separate item on the agenda, if possible, on Monday that precedes the
Yes.
ballot questions.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
entirely
Yep.
separate agenda item.
Yep. Nancy, were you raising your hand?
Nancy Dodge, and this just goes back to the pumper and the fire trucks. I don't know that much about insurance, commercial insurance, but if, you know, when we're talking about downtown, the new harbor, the old harbor, we're talking about commercial establishments. And I know in residential, when you're being quoted insurance, they want to know, you know, is it a volunteer fire department? Is it
Distance to the nearest fire.
the fire height? Right. I mean, has the town ever considered having a conversation with the commercial establishments to see if we could get some contributions from them in the hopes that some of this might impact their insurance payments? I mean, it's just a wild idea, but looking around, they've got a vested interest. And we're already going to be putting money into providing more water in reserve for those establishments, you know, from the water company. And I mean, they might be willing to do it. It just seems like it's a source that you might want to tap and see.
All right. Do you need any more from us? You know how that. I gotta go officiate at a wedding, so can I have a motion to adjourn? Second, all those in favor?